Welcome back to another episode of Island Bike Life. Today we're taking a look at the 2019 Scott Ransom 920. I got this bike from Carter, the owner and operator of Black Cycles in the Comox Valley. This is his personal bike, and I really like to thank him for giving me the opportunity to take this one for a ride. I had this bike over a few days and took it on a couple of different test rides. The first was up at the Dumont Riding Network. This is a classic Nanaimo area, full of nice trail riding and some pretty technical descents if you know where to go. The second location I took this bike down to was the South Benson Riding Network, also here in Nanaimo. This is some of the best downhill and free ride lines of anywhere on Vancouver Island, and is a perfect spot to put a bike like this through the tests. This is a completely revamped Enduro bike from Scott for 2019. It has all of the most modern geometry updates, including a 44mm offset fork, super long wheelbase, super slack head tube, and a really nice C-tube angle. Because this is Carter's personal bike, it does have some upgraded parts over what the stock 920 will come with, and I'll mention those as we go through the build here. Some of them will definitely affect the ride quality, including the VR1 composite wheels. They are super stiff in comparison to the alloy wheels that would have come with this bike stock. But overall, the geo and bike handling and ride characteristics are going to be fundamentally the same, as the suspension setup is the same as it was for a stock 920. The build that does come on this bike from Scott is a pretty good value. What you're going to get is a Fox suspension front and rear. You're going to have a 36 up front with 170 mils of travel with the grip damper. On the rear, you're going to get the new trunnion mount, which also comes with the new TR setup on the rear. This allows you to adjust the progression on your shock on the fly, which is a great new feature from Fox. Pairing with the suspension setup is Scott's twin lock technology. This is effectively an ability to lock out both your front and rear shock at the same time with the use of a remote lever that sits on your handlebars. The group set that comes on it is a full SRAM NX. That includes the cassette, the derailleur, the cranks, the chain, and the shifter. It does not have SRAM brakes. It comes with pretty standard Shimano 4 pistons. The rest of the setup is going to be Scott / Synchro's in-house bits, including the handlebar, the stem, and the dropper post, which comes stock at 150mm. The stock wheels that would have come with it are also Synchro's alloy rims with their in-house hubs. Good setup on tires, both Y-Trail, Maxxis Mini, and DHF front and rear. This one is running a DHR2 out back. As you can see, a lot of the drivetrain on this test bike was changed out. This one is running a full XX1 setup, and as I said before, the VR1 composite wheels with a set of I9 hubs. As for the sizing, this is very similar to my own Yeti SB150 in terms of reach, stack, wheelbase, and so forth. This particular bike is a large, and at 6'2" with the 33-inch inseam, it felt very familiar to what I already had. I could definitely ride an XL, but it might be a little bit big. With my sizing, I'm kind of in that weird gray zone between a large or an XL on this bike and a few other brands with this new updated Geo. When I first took this bike out, I wanted to see what it could do for climbing. I feel very spoiled with my SB150 in that even though it is a very long travel 29er, it climbs wonderfully. I would say that the Scott has this same ability, but it is definitely going to be dependent on your shock setup.
For such a large bike, 170 front and back, the Ransom climbs surprisingly well in fire road situations. Not a whole lot of movement through the suspension, though I do find myself reaching for the twin lock lockout more often than I would on other bikes. It's definitely a nice thing to have, and I'm glad that it's there.
For me, I went with 25% sag front and rear and utilized that twin lock whenever I could. I believe that the suspension setup and the kinematics of this bike are designed around you using that twin lock. And because of that, you can run your bike a little bit softer for when you're descending, but when you're climbing, there definitely is a little bit of suspension movement through. It's not a whole lot, but it is noticeable.
Single track climbing on the Ransom is really quite nice. It's not overly sprightly, that's for sure. You definitely feel the size and the weight of the bike. But those new modern geometry standards really help it move around the trail. No problem at all.
Overall, I was really happy with the climbing on this bike. It was better than what I anticipated that it would be when I looked at similar bikes with this amount of travel, like the Firebird 29 or even the Evil Reckoning. Those bikes were a little bit more sluggish going up the hill. This bike definitely was not. If I was using the twin lock, if it was wide open on a long fire road, it would definitely turn into a little bit of a grind. Same goes for single track. Another important thing to take into consideration with these new enduro bikes is they're really selling them as the ability to have one bike to do everything. So you need to look at not only going up and going down, but also how you're getting in between these two places. And that's where the general trail riding feel of a bike like this is very important, at least to me. I found the trail riding on this bike was very fun because the suspension is very active and I ran it very soft. It definitely hugged around the trails. It was fun to move through things and it never got hung up on anything. It was a very fun bike to ride and that is very important to me. I don't want to go out and have a bike feel very robotic or very stiff or overly soft and not engaging.
When just general trail riding, Ransom really hugs the trail nice, follows it. Suspension is really well balanced. Pedals nice. Good power transfer.
I definitely found that the Ransom 920 was an engaging bike when it came to general trail riding. And that was a very nice surprise because I thought it might have been a little bit too much bike for just moving around between your uphills and your downhills. Even though it was fun, I don't necessarily know that I would want to have this bike as my only bike if my terrain didn't dictate longer sustained descents. If my terrain that I rode more often than not was kind of flat or short ups and short downs, this might be a little bit too much bike for that situation. Now, when it comes to the descending, that's what this bike is purely designed for. Because this bike is so downhill focused, it definitely wants a extended descent. It wants a right descent. You could take this thing to Whistler Bike Park or any bike park for that matter and ride it all day long. This thing is definitely an enduro bike. It loves to go downhill once it gets you to the top, and it's where it really shines.
This Scott Ransom just loves to go fast. Nice long wheelbase. Perfectly sized chainstays. Just excellent geometry for speed.
It really is unlike anything in the past few years, the way this new geometry setup works. It's incredibly confidence inspiring. It begs you to go fast and go hard, and it'll take anything you can throw at it. Looking at the Ransom 920 in its comparative pricing category, it's a fairly good value. Right around 5,800 Canadian, give or take. You're gonna be getting a full alloy frame, a reasonably good suspension setup with an okay group set. It would have been nice to see a GX group set on this instead of the NX for that price. But where it is sitting is kind of in that low entry price point. Yes, you can spend a ton more money on a full carbon tuned version of this bike, That's Scott's sort of top end build kit, and get all the bells and whistles you're going to need. But if you want to spend a reasonable amount of money on a bike that you're going to have a ton of fun on, definitely consider this one. The Ransom 920 has some very good value for the build kit that comes on it. And as your parts wear out or break or you want to replace them, you're not going to be spending a ton of money on a bike that you're going to feel bad investing a little bit more on an upgraded drivetrain or perhaps a different set of brakes 6 months or a year down the road. So who is the Scott Ransom 924? Well, this bike is designed to go downhill, so you're going to have some trails that utilize what this bike can do. This bike is very heavy, you know, even with the upgraded and lightened parts, it's well over 30 pounds. The stock build based on the Scott's website is right around 33, 34 pounds, and you can feel it when you're slugging it up the hill. This thing will get you to the top. It's not going to be incredible. You may not even terribly enjoy it depending on how long you have to go or what your individual fitness level is. But once you get to the top, this bike is going to reward you for that effort. You are going to have so much fun going downhill, you're going to be smiling ear to ear. If where you live or where you prefer to ride is flatter cross-country or lighter trail riding type of environments, I personally think this bike might be a little bit too much for that situation. It has so much travel that you're just not going to use it, and it's going to slow you down, and you're not going to have as much fun. Yes, it does ride well on the trails, but not for an extended period of time. I wouldn't want to take this thing on a 3-hour cross-country ride. I'd be dead tired by the end. On a 3-hour enduro or shuttle day, absolutely. You're not going to find a bike that's more enduro than this thing on the market today. In the end, would I recommend the Scott Ransom 920? Absolutely I would. Taking those caveats into mind, if you ride in a place where you think you can put a bike like this through its paces and actually use what it's supposed to do, you are going to have probably one of the funnest rides you're going to find in 2018 or 2019. Don't miss out on this one. Go check out your local Scott dealer. Go see Carter at Black Cycle in the Comox Valley. Take this one out for a test ride. Check it out. Better yet, get one of your own. Well, there you have it, the 2019 Scott Ransom 920. If you like what I'm doing here, think about hitting the subscribe and the like button. Leave me a comment down below and come and find me on Instagram. And as always, thanks again for watching. Now let's go hit the trails.